as it were. There's a joke which is I got from a friend Martin Longstaff. He was playing a gig with his, he's a singer-songwriter who's playing a gig with his steeler Tom, and at the end of the night a really drunk Irish guy came up to him. He said, "Oh, you're brilliant, you're absolutely fantastic, and your friend in the wheelchair, oh, he plays a hell of a piano." So that's kind of where I'm starting on from. So this talk's going to be a little bit of history, it's going to be a little bit of postulation, it's going to be a little bit of music, and a little bit of dog by the look of it. Could somebody scoop up the pooch, possibly? Less of course.
Come here.
There we go. Alright, so the pedal steel guitar. So the pedal steel guitar, like all of the steel family, draws its roots from Hawaii. In the 19th century, Spanish and Mexican sailors came through the island of Hawaii and brought with them the things which they typically did, which was gonorrhea and guitars. And both of them have stuck around very successfully. So the Hawaiian guitar was, rather than take the traditional Spanish tuning, you remember learning your G's and your E minors and lots of stuff where you put your fingers on, a lot of cultures take Spanish guitars and put them into something called an open tuning, which means when you strum across, it sounds much more mellifluous than the standard flamenco tuning, which requires some manipulation. And this worked well, and it worked even better when they raised the strings away from the neck. If you can see, there's about a 1/4 inch of distance between this and the neck. I will leave this steel up afterwards if people want to come up and even have a go. And it got even better when they added the bar, which is the steel from which the steel gets its name, which contributes to that typical, perhaps stereotypical Hawaiian sound. And the Hawaiian orchestras were extremely big, and eventually the steel was exported to the mainland, where problems started, because people wanted to play it in a genre called Western swing, which was a combination of blues and jazz and country. And the problem with Western swing was there were a lot more complicated chords than, because you're really playing this with one finger, and so you're constrained to the notes which you have under the string, like the one finger guitarist trying to play the bar chord. And so it seemed to them that if they wanted to play chords like this, like this, which is all possible, they'd need to do a few things with the tuning, and so it seemed to them pretty obvious what they needed to do. They needed more necks, so they put more necks on the guitar, no pedals at this point, but these were the console steels, and so now they could play a bit of blues and a bit of Hawaiian, and then they want to play country, and it seems to me what the obvious thing to do is, which is to make a guitar with more necks, and then they want to play some rock and roll. And this is turning into a practical nightmare. What's going to happen next? You know, mambo's on the rise, it's getting very worrying, it's heavy, it's impractical, it's a terrible strain on the pedal steel player's back, carrying it from gig to gig. What they needed was the same thing that we go to IKEA every other weekend looking for, which is a modular solution. They needed one neck, which could be transmogrified into all these different styles all at once. You could play not only the major chords, but you could also play all the other chords as well. Now, there are lots of people on the Nashville commercial music scene that had some hand in this, but probably the best known is Buddy Emmons, the greatest steel player ever, and possibly also one of the most influential hat wearers on the Nashville scene at the same time. This is a clip of him playing with Ernest Tubb. What Buddy is doing, which is different, is up until this point, console steel players, as they were known before the pedals came in, they were using the bar a lot. And they were getting everything through the bar. But what he's now doing is he's using the pedals under his steel, so that he's holding the bar in one place, and the pedals are doing a lot of the work. That sort of thing. So what's actually going on here? I'm going to take it, you know, for granted, as I do with all my audiences, that your chordal theory knowledge is extremely good, if not excellent. So what's actually happening? Let's take a typical C major chord. I've just got one under here, notes in no particular order. So what you might not be able to see is I have 3 pedals, and I also have 5 knee levers. In fact, there's one which goes up as well, which is extremely difficult to see, but you can sense there's some movement going on here. And I've got the C chord, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to depress a pedal, which is going to change a note. You could hear it change then, right? And then I depress another pedal, so you can hear 2 notes go up, right? And what it's doing is it's pulling the E up to an F, and the G up to an A, and through the miracle of chord harmony, that's making it into a C to an F, to that familiar sound we all know. I'm doing this all without moving the bar. So that's enough of what's is happening. Oh, I was going to mention with the bond thing, which we were doing earlier. It's actually a really good example of what's going on in the pedal steel as well, because I've got my... That's all being done with knee levers. Does anyone actually know a bit of chord theory here? Musicians?
A couple of us might do.
Just a few. Doesn't matter. But it doesn't matter. Okay, so how to learn it? Okay, so the big problem with the steel is it's extremely rare. You can't buy it in shops. You can't buy it on eBay. You can't buy it fucking anywhere. What you have to do is you have to go onto the British Steelies forum, which that photo was taken a couple of months ago before I did St Leonard's, not 13 or 14 years as you might have surmised. And what you do is you go onto there, you find a guy who has a steel, and then you sell everything you own, and you take a voyage to the home counties to a bungalow where the man will pull a steel out from under his bed, and he will sell it to you for £1,500. And it's not always necessarily very good, because it's been around since the 70s. And sorry, what's going on back there? Easy one. It's not always terribly good, and tuition's not that great as well with the pedal steel, because tuition's mostly supplied by shut-ins in the home counties and so on. So it was really good that I did actually manage to run into a guy called B.J. Cole. B.J. Cole was a famous British session player through the 60s, 70s, 80s. He played on Elton John's Tiny Dancer. And I used to go to his house about twice a year or every few months when he was up in Southgate and I was in London. And this is a clip of him playing a little bit of Claire de Lune. So overdriving the speaker slightly. Just skipping through that, the pedal steel is an instrument that's capable of a great deal of types of music, which is something I'm going to demonstrate as well as just country, but it is something that comes with certain barriers to entry. And the first is the high price, then there's a lack of tuition, which I mentioned, the difficulty buying. I was a musician who'd been playing guitar for 10 years at that point, and it was difficult for me to do. If you don't get a good steel, you have to be an engineer as well. And then there's the lack of diverse player base. We also have a little bit of an issue with acceptance in the community. They're conservative with both a small C and a large C. It's sometimes difficult. For instance, when I did this talk at St Leonard's, they put up a video of me doing it on the forum, and the first comment was, Tim lacks technique to a surprising degree, and yet he still gets kids. Perhaps if I unlearn my blocking and volume pedal techniques, and also take the sartorial piss out of Buddy Emmons, guilty as charged, I'll be more acceptable to the masses. That was the first comment. Thank you, Richard. The problem is we all know each other as well, so it's stung that much more. So, with that in mind, what is the future of the pedal steel? Well, I think, the future of the pedal steel is very much bound up with the past of the pedal steel. The problem is it does go back to Buddy Emmons. In many ways, country music was an incredible place for the pedal steel to be mechanically engineered, but it wasn't a great place for it to get musically marooned. And there have been certain bands who have looked at bringing back the steel in its more traditional form as a lead instrument, but tethered to certain kind of things. There's a band called Steelism, who play, I guess you call it kind of retro instrumental college music. Well, they covered the Batman theme 3 times for their last record, that's what I'll say. They're fairly retro dudes. But I think if we look to the possibility of the pedal steel a bit more, we need to consider its architecture, which is, this is an instrument with this large open sound. It's got almost infinite sustain, it takes the pedals very well, and in this respect it's quite similar to the synthesizer, which I have a slide of in 1 second. And I was just going to show you a little bit of just a little bit of playing. I mean, I do sometimes wonder why pedal steelers want to play country music so much when you can do lots of other stuff like stuff like that, deep, dreamy, soundscapey sort of things with the pedal steel, along with all the traditional playing. In fact, I often, when people ask me about being influenced by people, I often talk about this woman, and I will give a £15 Amazon gift voucher to anybody who can tell me this is Tim otherwise. Any knowledge? 70s synth pioneer, it doesn't matter, okay, fine. It's a woman called Suzanne Cheney. Suzanne Cheney was very well known. Which was mostly actually well known for designing some of the kind of Coke stuff, the pop and pause synthesized sounds in the 80s. Some of you might be more familiar with that, but she was famous for kind of humanizing the synthesizer, taking it away from the men in lab coats and producing this kind of dreamy, new agey music. And I think that the pedal steel has a lot to offer in that kind of regard, because this warm, accessible, open sound, but it's been a little bit, maybe ghettoized in country music and needs to be brought out into the mainstream, like Cheney did. So anyway, I'm going to play a bit of music now, if that's okay. Is that all right? Just to say that this is a cut from my record. Just let that soak in. There's a yeah. Took a moment. There's a lot more avant-garde stuff on this. Actually, this was the kind of party piece, and I play it very badly at the moment actually because I've been playing too much avant-garde music. But thought I'd just play you a little bit of Debussy, a light rearranging of The Girl with Flaxen Hair. At Kino, I actually completely forgot the middle section and had to stop it, so hopefully that won't happen this time. But anyway, let's see how it goes. Okay. Thank you.
Wow.